All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. I'm once again joined by my two regular co-hosts, Jack Eden and Trevor Kaufman. And man, we have some NBA to talk about. We have the NBA Finals to discuss, and I'm pretty happy. For having chosen the Warriors in 7 games, I feel pretty good. They tied up the series last night in Game 4. That was a massive win. Trevor, get this off my screen. This is just, oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, good Lord. But anyway, the Warriors, I'll get into what I have to say about them. But I wanted to just ask Trevor, what have you seen from these first few games here? What have you seen, especially from last night in Game 4? What did you see from the Warriors? What are you worried about with Boston? Or what do you like from both sides?
I like a lot for both sides, if I'm being honest with you, Ryan. I think I was a little too confident in Golden State saying that this series would go 6 games.
It could.
I do think it's going to go 7 games, and I don't know who's going to win. I like what I've seen more from Boston. I feel like Boston's been the better team in this series, if I'm going to be honest with you, through 4 games, right? But Boston's been beating themselves. I think with
Mm.
turnovers, I think with just poor fourth quarter performances from their star players, right? Like I think Boston really should be up 3-1. I think they should have won that game last night. But Steph Curry happened, and Steph Curry is, kind of silencing any hate that you have left against him with this finals performance. He had 43 last night. He is far and away the best player in this series for both teams, especially Golden State, considering how bad Klay Thompson and how even worse Draymond Green has been in this series. Um, that's pretty much all I have to say. I just think it's going to come down to will Boston beat themselves, or will Steph Curry be able to continue to carry a worse Warriors team, right? Like I don't we kind of know what we're going to get since we've seen these teams play now 4 times. I think the X factor in this series for me is Marcus Smart. I think they need him to play big, and I think they need him to play efficient on offense to win. Last night he was okay on offense, and they did lose, but I still think if he's their efficient third scorer, their tough guy on defense who can play both ways, I like Boston to come away with this series. Also, I don't think home court is that big of a deal. We've already seen both these teams win once on the opposing team's floor. So I don't think Golden State being at home for games 5 and potentially 7 is that big of a deal. I'll let you guys dive deeper into some of the, analytical stuff here, but I am going to spend the next minute or two here ripping Draymond Green to shreds. I told these guys a couple
Ugh.
times, this has been an all-time bad finals performance by a guy who is a lock for the Hall of Fame. 17 points and 18 fouls in 4 games. And I get he's not supposed to be a scorer. I understand that. But when you're playing 35 minutes a night, you should be able to give your team more points than fouls. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. I don't even read into his rebounds or assists. He lives in the paint on defense. He's the tallest guy on the floor for the Warriors. And who's he passing the ball to? He's wide open, no ball pressure on him every single time he touches the ball at the top of the key. All he has to do is let Steph or Klay or somebody else run around, shake their defender for half a second, and throw up a shot, and it's going to go in because Steph and Klay are just amazing shooters. So for me, his job has been easy on the court. He can't score. He's been terrible. His own mom called him out on Twitter. And if this guy wants to have people think he's a surefire Hall of Famer, I need to see something a little bit more than 2-8-9, 2-4-3, and 6 fouls, right? Like I'm seeing a glorified Patrick Beverley out there right now with less offensive game. So I don't know. I'm not seeing it from Draymond Green. I'm taking my time here to rip him to shreds. I also think we should really rip Jason Tatum. I thought he's been horrible in this series. Not as bad as like Draymond Green, but he's been very inefficient for 4 games. He has not been clutch in the fourth quarters, especially yesterday. Costing me a parlay, so I'm a little hot on him right now, but that's besides the point. But no, like point being, he hasn't been great in this series. He hasn't had that big, 40-point game that we've seen yet, that NBA Finals, like MVP type of game that we've seen from Steph. And I think he needs to be better if they want to win this series. I think Jaylen Brown's been playing good. At times he's been great, but I think for the most part, Jaylen Brown's been good. Marcus Smart has been really good for them in this series. I think they need Jason Tatum to step up and play like a superstar that we've kind of, pushed him into as to win the NBA Finals. And final point, Draymond Green, you've been terrible, and I'll leave it at that.
Trevor, can I ask you a question before
Yeah,
Jack, I go
yeah.
ahead? has Draymond, in your opinion, been like the biggest disappointment on the Warriors? Is he like the number
Yes.
one player on the Warriors to you that's been like, man, like he's just
Yes.
been the most disappointing to me. Like he's been, I
Yes.
expected a lot more. Really? Okay.
Yes. Because look, Clay hasn't been great in this series, but Clay gave me 25 in game 3. He gave me 18 in game 4 with 13 in the second half. He hit a couple of big shots in the fourth quarter, and he wasn't great, but he gave them enough to complement Steph to win that game. Whereas I felt like, whereas you could be disappointed in Clay for not being like as good as he's been in the past, and he definitely is not. But for me, I still feel like his defense was pretty solid yesterday in game 4. And I felt like his shooting came around in the second half to the point where he was able to affect the game with some big shots in the fourth quarter.
That's fair. That's fair. I was just
And
curious
give
what
and
your
shout out
thoughts are on
Andrew
that.
Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins played a great game yesterday on both ends of the floor. I thought he did a great job on Jason Tatum. And I thought his aggressiveness on the glass and his aggressiveness around the rim was big for them.
What do you think about how Jordan Poole's been in this series?
He's not been great. He hasn't been great. He wasn't very good. Yes, he was okay yesterday. He's hot and cold, right? He's a little streaky. He's young. I, I, for me, his minutes are down right now. Like he's not playing as much as he has in previous series. So it's harder for him to get into a rhythm and impact the series. I think his biggest liability is obviously as a defender, which is why he's not going to play as much in the series. But I think in the second quarter, he gave them a nice boost on offense. And I think in the fourth quarter, he, made a couple big plays. So I thought he was okay yesterday. If I had to give him a letter grade, I'd give him like a B minus for his performance, B for his performance yesterday.
All right.
Whereas I'll give Draymond Green a D, and then in game 3, I'll give Draymond Green an
Wait,
F.
for yesterday, you give Draymond a D?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Anyway, Jack, go ahead. What do you think about this series? Give your thoughts.
Um, Kind of in a similar boat as Ryan, picking the Celtics to win in 7 at the beginning of the series. I like the way that the series has played out so far. It's exactly how I expected.
Fair.
I expected them to be 2-2 going into San Francisco in game 5, but I don't know. It's just like I feel like what Trevor said is right in the fact that I think Boston has been the better team through 4 games. And outside of game 2 where they lost or were down by 30 at one point, like game 4 yesterday, I think was a very winnable game for Boston. They were up 4 with 5 minutes left and then just suddenly went cold and couldn't make a shot. But the one thing I want to say with that is who was taking the shots for each team down the stretch. And for Boston, it was guys like Derek White, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, so not their 2 best players. Who was taking all the shots down the stretch for Golden State? Steph Curry.
Yep.
So I think, the difference there is those last 5 minutes, Golden State said, we're going to let the other guys beat us, and if they can beat us, they can beat us. And I think for everyone who's grown up playing basketball, like that's what you want to do in games is to go out and take away the other team's best player. And if the other guys beat you, then, pat them on the back and say good job. And I think, Golden State was excellent with that yesterday. They gave up 3 points, the final 5-18. They locked in defensively. Brown and Tatum probably only had in those last 5 minutes, maybe 4 shots between the 2 of them. And most of them were going to Jaylen Brown, like if that even.
Yeah.
But
thanks, Jason.
Thanks. And then, on the other side, Steph is running around everyone. Like he wasn't giving the ball up. And it worked. He went out for 43. That was one of his, I think, best performances I've ever seen from Stephen Curry, which is saying a lot considering what he's done. But he put his team on his back yesterday. And I don't know. I look at this as if you look at the last however many playoff series, it's usually the team that I've found with the better top 2 players that will win the series, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could look back to last year's finals to before and so on. And I think this year, if Tatum and Brown play the way that they're capable of playing, they are the better top 2 than Curry and Clay, Curry and Wiggins, maybe.
Yes.
I would put Wiggins as their second best player
right now
at the floor. Yeah. But you get a performance in those last 5 minutes from Tatum and Brown where they don't show up. then suddenly you're playing Curry and Wiggins versus Smart and Horford. Like that's completely different. And I think, that was the difference in the game for the last 5 minutes. Golden State had the best two players on the floor, the better top two, and that ultimately was the difference in the game.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I feel like that has to come down to like coaching, right? Like it has to come down to like Kerr specifically keying in, and we've seen it all series. He's keying especially on Tatum, like especially on Tatum. Tatum struggled inside the 3-point line. Tatum has had a horrible series outside the behind the 3-point line. He really hasn't been that bad. I think he was 4 for 8 yesterday. He's hit like 3 or 4 threes in pretty much almost every game this series. But inside the 3-point line, they're not giving him anything at all. Like he is struggling really, really badly inside the 3-point line. And that has to come down to Steve Kerr saying, hey guys, we're gonna key in on Tatum inside the arc. And that's smart. He's their best player. He's almost a superstar. And so that's the coaching philosophy to me. And then you look at Udoka, and he's letting they're running high screens at pretty far behind the 3-point line sometimes. And I get it's far back there, but you're still dropping the big man. Let Kevon Looney catch the ball, make Curry pass out of a double, and then hope your help defender can beat Kevon Looney and be right. Make Kevon Looney make a layup over, even if it's over a smaller guy. Don't let Curry have an opening for a 3. You just can't let that happen. And they're letting it happen. And Jeff Van Gundy pointed it out last night. He's he hit a crazy 3. He's that was a crazy shot. But Boston can do something about that. They can do something about that. They can have him not take that shot, right? And they're just letting him take that shot. And it killed them yesterday. And if they keep letting it happen, it's going to lose them the series, in my opinion. You just can't let him get going like that. You can't let him have any opening. That's how Steph Curry operates, and he got the opening. So, yeah, I think that, I'm glad you brought up, the difference at the end there because, Curry's our best player. He's taking the shots. Whereas the Warriors weren't letting Boston's best players take shots. And you know what happened? Al Horford hit 1 3. That's it. That's literally it. No one else made a shot. And that was the difference in the game. Inside 5 or 6 minutes to go in the fourth, that is where the championship players are made. And that's what we saw last night, I feel like. Any team can win this series. I feel good about the Warriors. I know home games, Trevor's right, don't really have a huge impact on these teams, as we've seen. But I still feel better about Golden State having 2 of the last 3 at home. It's nicer that way. What else do I want to say? Yeah, Jordan Poole has disappointed me this series. I get his minutes are down, but that's pretty much to me on Jordan Poole. He's not playing as much because his play hasn't been good. He has to be very good offensively for him to play 30 minutes a game like he was during the regular season, to justify he doesn't play defense, right? He doesn't play good defense. He's as liable as big a liability as Curry is on defense. And so when he's struggling consistently, he's just not worth to have out there. So he's been disappointing to me because he averaged 18.5 in the regular season. He hasn't broken 17 once these finals. So that's just disappointing. Clay's been disappointing. I thought he got hot sometimes, but he's just so, I don't know. He's just shooting tough shots, off balance, falling away. It happens a lot. I don't know. He's just struggling. So it's disappointing. His defense has been pretty solid to me. When I watched him play defense, he's able to stay in front of Jaylen Brown a fair amount of the time, honestly. So credit to him. He seems to have gotten a lot of his defense back. I don't know how much, but he's definitely not a negative on the defensive end anymore. Right now, I think he's decent for them, which is why he's still out there, right? So I know Trevor and I have talked about before. Why is Clay still when is Clay going to get back? When are you going to bring in Poole or someone else even over Clay? He can't shoot. He just struggles. He's struggling a ton. It's he's a decent defender, so they can leave him out there. And he's shown that in this series, I think. And then talking about Draymond, Trevor laid into Draymond really hard. And look, Draymond definitely deserves some flack. The guy has shot the ball horrifically. And it's he has absolutely no offensive game anymore. I told Trevor, I was talking to him off the podcast. Draymond, back when he played the Cavs, was able to go off and put up points. In game 7 of 2016, he put up 35 points. He almost won that game for the Warriors while Steph couldn't make shots. Right. And so he used to be able to do that. He just can't do that anymore. And you see that out there. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal as Trevor's saying. I don't think right now you're going out there saying yeah, I want Draymond. I need Draymond to go get me 10 or 15 points. You don't need that if you're the Warriors. You just don't. It does not matter.
I
Like
don't know about that.
to me, am I okay with him having like 6 or 8 points? I'm totally fine with that as long as he does everything else that he's capable of doing, which is rebounding the ball, passing the ball. And he's a very good passer. Trevor says, yeah, he has 2 Hall of Fame shooters next to him. That's very true. But he's a very good passer, especially for a big man. Like throughout his career, he
Easy
just
to
has been.
pass when there isn't a defender within
Watch the
12 feet
passes
of
he
your
makes.
airspace.
He's not like always like it's not like he's always like handing the ball off around like a
That's
screen.
my
Like
point.
that
There's
happens
no one
sometimes,
guarding
but that's
him.
not okay. I mean, like, is there someone guarding the guy he's throwing the pass to? Yeah. I mean, like, he's not throwing it. My point is, he's not like tossing it next to him all the time. Like, he's a good passer. Like, you can roll your eyes all you want, but he's a very good passer, especially for a big man. Like, yeah, I know he has no defensive pressure on him, but he's not shooting anyway. It doesn't matter. Like whatever.
It's not very hard to stand around and just look for a guy to
Okay.
get open and throw him a pass.
Then why don't all big men who can't shoot do it? Like
they don't have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on their team.
Oh, so
That's why.
Okay. So you think that like DeMarcus Cousins could go out there, stand at the top of the key, and do what Draymond does? I bet you anything he couldn't. Like these guys, most big men
he'll
cannot
shoot
do
it
that.
and make it. Actually, that's what he'll do instead.
He'll probably break it because DeMarcus Cousins is actually just bad at basketball. But my point is I'm just saying, like, no, most big men cannot pass the ability of Draymond Green. Like, you can just say he makes all easy passes, but that's just a lie. Like that's just not true.
You're right, Ryan. Jay Crowder is better than Draymond Green.
Yeah. But anyway, look, he deserves a lot of the criticism, but I don't know. I think as long as he does the other things, which he did last night, he didn't in game 3. Game 3, he was horrific. Last night, he did all the other things. I'm okay with him not scoring. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as like down on that as Trevor. Like, he had a really bad game 3. Like, we all know it, but he was fine in game 4. He did everything else well, which is what he normally does. And I'm okay with that, Draymond Green. The Warriors don't need Draymond to score to win games. So I don't know really why I care. Like, he should be taking less shots than me. He shouldn't be taking as many shots. Like, if I'm being honest, like, just don't take as many shots. That's the solution to me. I don't need you to score to win games. If I'm Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, I don't need you to score. Oh, by the way, Jack and I said that Andrew Wiggins before the series was the X factor for the Warriors, and I think we were exactly right. By the way, he's their second best player in this series. 16 rebounds last night. He's been crashing the offensive glass every game this series. He's been great, by the way. So I just wanted to say
and
that.
slowing down Tatum.
Yeah,
like,
and
he has the biggest responsibility on the other end of the court as well. So what he's given them this series, and like, it was funny, we were talking about it because going back to the trade when they traded D'Angelo Russell for him in a first, like,
what a great deal,
including me, I was like, you gave that guy away for nothing. And the pick was protected. It ended up being next year's pick, which turned into Jonathan Kuminga too. Like, I think what Bob Myers has done with getting Russell for Durant and then getting Wiggins and Kuminga for Russell, like, I think that turnaround is a big reason why Golden State is still in this position.
Yeah, because you got 2 firsts and Wiggins for Durant, basically, because they also got a first in the Russell deal. So yeah, you're right. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, Wiggins has revitalized his career at Golden State, and it's going to get him a great deal somewhere else if he ends up leaving. But
I don't think he should leave.
I don't think he should leave either. But if he wants to get paid, he probably will. But he's been fantastic on both ends of the floor. Maybe he's not always super efficient shooting the ball, but he's been really good on both ends of the floor. And so he's definitely been their second best player. And yeah, I just wanted to shout him out there. But yeah, I don't know. I stand by what I said about Draymond. I mean, he was really bad in game 3, but he's not like I don't need him to score. I don't need him to score.
Here's where I
want to weigh in on the Draymond.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I agree with Ryan, and I was talking with Trevor about this last night, is that you don't need Draymond to score if you want to win. So like, you're looking at that stat, more fouls than points. Like, Draymond is not a scorer in general. So
especially not this stage in his career.
Especially he never has been on this team. Like, outside of, he goes for 30 in game 7 in 2016. Like, that's the only time I've really been like, wow, Draymond can score, not can play.
Yeah.
But so you don't need him to score. Now, a lot of fouls is a little bit concerning, and it's like something to point to, but at the same time, like, he is someone that's kind of his MO. Like, I have 6 fouls, I'm going to use a lot of them. He's going to make it, the way he does that, he plays physical and he tries to make the other players he's playing against uncomfortable. So like, I think that stat, that points versus foul stat, is indicative of Draymond Green. And I think, if you're looking at someone who is more of a scorer and has that stat, I put more stock in it than if it's Draymond Green. But to go back to the point, he has not been good in this series. That was evidenced yesterday when Steve Kerr went offense defense and took him out of the game down the stretch in a close game.
I was going to say that.
You're taking this Hall of Famer out. So I don't see that as in Draymond has played so poorly that it's led him to take him out. I think Steve Kerr knows what it takes to win a championship, and he's playing, offense, defense. He says, I know I'm going to get one possession of this, and I'm going to do what gives my team the best chance to win.
Can I that's the difference between Steve Kerr and a guy like Quinn Snyder, right? Like
the difference between, I think, Steve Kerr and a guy like Monty Williams. I don't think Monty is, who we've talked about before, who is more culture, more system, like my methodology will beat yours in the long run. And Steve Kerr is more willing to adjust, like Otto Porter in the starting lineup. I don't know how many games he started this year. The same thing as bringing Iguodala into the starting lineup in their first go around. And then now you're taking one of your top 3 players historically out, a guy who could be a Hall of Famer down the line, down the stretch of a game. I think his willingness to change is a reason, A, why Golden State has had so much success, and B, why he's one of the best coaches in the NBA.
Yeah, no, sorry, Trevor, I know you want to get in. I just want to say, we laugh at how bad Rudy Gobert is sometimes, but he's a really, really good player. The Utah Jazz built around him for his defense. He's an elite defender 95% of the time. But sometimes when you're facing certain lineups, you need to be willing to take a guy like that out, the guy who's making big money, the guy who might be your best defensive player. And Quinn Snyder is clearly too afraid to do that. A lot of coaches are too afraid to make that change. Steve Kerr, he took Draymond out knowing that, he might be generally my best defender. He might be the guy who we run the ball through to make the pass to Curry or Clay for the shot. But I'm going to take him out at the end of the game because I think X lineup works better down the stretch. I just that's Jack's right. That's making championship decisions and changes. That just is that's how you win. You're not afraid to make adjustments that a lot of people wouldn't make because it's the right choice. And it might not be the flashy choice, taking out a Hall of Famer, right? But it works. So, I think that's a really good thing to point out. But Trevor, what were you going to say? What do you want to say about
I think you guys are completely correct about the Steve Kerr thing, but that was my point. My point was the adjustment of this series was benching Draymond Green. And I just think that shows.
I disagree.
That was the adjustment. That was the adjustment that probably won because when they took him out, they went on the run. And then when they brought him back in, they started playing offense defense. So for me, it's hard for me to be wow, Draymond Green's impact in this series. It was felt most on the bench, right? That was the change.
I don't agree.
Second thing I was going to say, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I think what also flipped in this series between games 3 and 4 was who was the more aggressive team. And I look at Boston in game 3, and they were relentlessly attacking the ball to the rim, relentlessly crashing the offensive glass, right? Relentlessly living in the paint. And I think they out-rebounded Golden State by 13 or 16 rebounds. Game 4, Golden State out-rebounds them by 13. Golden State made that adjustment of being aggressive, crashing the boards, attacking the paint. And I felt like Boston lost that, particularly in the second half. I felt like Boston in the first half of game 4 would attack. Jason Tatum would attack. Jaylen Brown would attack, right? Second half of game 4, fourth quarter of game 4, it was a lot of attacking and deferring to other guys to shoot threes. And they kept missing threes down the stretch. And I felt like if Boston's going to want to win this series, they have to stay aggressive. They have to want to be in attack mode for 4 quarters. And give Golden State credit because they're the smaller team, yet they out-rebounded Boston by 13. I think Boston's bigs, Al Horford, Grant Williams, Robert Williams, they got to be a little bit better. And I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, if you're going to get a switch on a pick and roll, you need to be a little bit better at exploiting that matchup. They were so good at exploiting Steph Curry in game 3 on defense. They didn't do that enough in game 4, right? And sometimes your best offense, that's different. Never mind. Anyways, I was going to say a way to limit a guy like Steph Curry's offense is to make him play defense. And I think Boston needs to continue to do that in game 5. And I felt like they went away from that in game 4. That's pretty much all I have to say. That's pretty much all I have to say.
I
To jump
forgot.
back in on that last point with a quick stat, they did exactly that in game 3. They made Steph guard them, and I believe the stat was they were 10 of 14 when Steph Curry was the primary defender.
I believe it. I mean,
And
I believe it.
Yeah, that was just to jump in on that last point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely believe that. But I just want to say, by the way, I didn't talk about the Boston players, and I just want to say, by the way, just like echoing a lot of what you guys said, Jason Tatum has just been really, he's just been really bad. I mean, I look at these games, and he hasn't shot. He was 8 for 23 last night, 9 for 23 in game 3. Really, not even much better. 8 for 19 in game 2 in the loss. So, he scored 28 efficiently, but it didn't matter. And he was 3 for 17 in game 1. Like, I don't know. He hasn't shown up to me. I also haven't seen him in the fourth quarter. This guy's supposed to be like a superstar. Some people call him, some people on ESPN call him a superstar. He's one of the top 5 young players in the NBA. And I don't see it right now. Like, this is where champions are made at the end of these games. And when you don't take a single shot, I didn't see him take a single shot inside 6 minutes at the end of that game. He made one shot in the fourth quarter. Early in the fourth, it was a 3.
Don't remind me. I know.
That was the only shot he made. I didn't see him take a shot at the end of the game. I'll go back and look, but I didn't see him take a shot.
I think he took one.
Did he take one?
In the last 5 minutes. I think he took one contested.
He took an open kind of 3. He also took an open-ish 3 and missed it.
Okay, so he took one shot. I just if you're the best player, if you're the superstar, you find ways to get it done. And I see small things as well. Like, I see him get matched up on a guy like Bielitsa when he's handling the ball, when Tatum's handling the ball, and he doesn't exploit the mismatch. He actually will take a highly contested fadeaway mid-range jumper with Bielitsa defending him. And I'm like, come on, you're the best player. You're the best playmaker on your team. Get a quality shot with a guy who's just a subpar defender guarding you. The little things by Tatum on the offensive end, I'm just not seeing. And he's struggled so much inside the arc that I don't know when he's going to turn it around, but he has been really bad in the series for me. Like, Jaylen Brown's been their best player. If the Celtics win the finals, I think Jaylen Brown will win finals MVP. He's been better.
Well,
he's been better.
That's
yes.
a long way away.
True, but I just unless something changes, which it could, but it's been 4 games and nothing's changed for me. I'd say Jaylen Brown's definitely been the better player. But I want to talk about that because Tatum's been really disappointing. I've been disappointed in him.
It makes you think, right? Jason Tatum's all of a sudden this guy who's supposed to be the next superstar.
Sure.
And who's been better in their first finals? Jason Tatum or Devin Booker?
Dude, what?
Devin Booker by a mile.
Wait, why does this why does this matter?
That's very true.
I'm just saying we want to write Devin Booker off as this guy who has a ceiling. He's a 2. And I've said it myself. I think he's a 1A, 1B type of guy.
Tatum's a better player than Devin Booker.
It was a little premature to anoint. Was it premature to anoint Jason Tatum when Devin Booker went for 40 twice in the finals in his first finals last year?
Ladies and gentlemen, can we double check, please? Who won the finals last year? Oh, that's right. The team that didn't choke a 2-0 lead. Sorry. Yeah, the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm
aware. I'm just saying, we wanted to anoint Jason Tatum. Devin Booker has been Booker.
What was Devin Booker? Over 7 from 3 in the elimination game?
You're bringing up meaningless jabs at me for no reason. I'm just saying, my point was, this was my only point. Maybe we prematurely anointed Jason Tatum. And maybe we wrote off Devin Booker a little bit too hard. I'm just saying, if we compare their finals performances.
I've been saying with the Booker stuff, everyone's on him. Anyways, that was.
But Jack, you hear what I'm saying, right? You think about how Booker played in his first finals, and we're thinking about how bad Tatum's struggling in his first finals. I don't know.
I remember I sent it to you the other day with the total points in playoff games and how Booker had basically scored the same amount as Tatum did through their 22 games of the playoffs, in his first go around there. So I don't know. That's what I'm just this isn't relevant to the conversation, but
no, it's not. I just felt like bringing it up,
but it's a fair point. Booker has looked better in last year's finals, I think, than Tatum has.
Should someone tell me what Jason Tatum's final stats are? Because I have Devin Booker's right here.
Bro,
if we go off on this tangent,
unanimously, Tatum's a better player than Booker. It's not an argument. This isn't a debate. I don't know who in the world. You telling me if you had the option to choose Devin Booker or Jason Tatum to go onto your roster right now, you'd choose Devin Booker. Let's not lie. Let's not lie.
So, okay,
Tatum's bigger.
I'm
He's
doing this
longer.
math
He's a better
in my
facilitator.
head.
He's a better defender. No.
Tatum's not a better facilitator.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Trevor, he's about 22, 23 points per game.
Devin Booker 28 in his first final.
He had one 12-point performance. He's had 28, 26, 23.
Seven rebounds, and he's had a lot of assists though.
Yeah, 13,
yeah.
3, 9, and 6. Yeah.
He's definitely
And 22,
overplaying on the
28,
assists. Like
31.
his assist stat is definitely inflated.
And
from
like
It's almost because-
7, 8 assists.
It's because they're keying on him. So he's passing the ball
But
more.
if you want to look at field goal shooting,
Okay, well, yeah, he
Actually,
shot the
I don't-
ball like maybe like
I have
30, 36%
Devin
from the
Booker,
field.
Devin Booker shot 45.5%, 27% from 3 in the finals. Ooh, that's not great.
Well, like I don't know why like one series dictates who's the better player. I don't understand why this is even like relevant at all.
I just felt like
No
throwing that out
way.
there.
Do you think
I
Booker's
just
better
felt
than
like
Tatum?
sprinkling
Would
it
you
out
would
there.
you choose Booker over Tatum? No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Yeah.
Tatum shot 38% this year.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Quick math.
Okay.
You think about Booker and Tatum both being kind of like the 1A, 1Bs with their running mates, Chris Paul and Jaylen Brown. The fact that Jason Tatum is struggling so much.
Well, Jason, the 1A. Booker's okay.
Well, Booker
1A.
could be the 1A, could be the 1B. It's hard to really say when Chris Paul's healthy. But I'm just saying the way
never
that
healthy,
Jason
apparently.
Tatum's struggling compared to a guy how Devin Booker played in the finals against a bigger, better Milwaukee team. I don't know.
You think Milwaukee's like 100% better? I mean, like
I think Milwaukee with Middleton would have beaten Boston this year. Yes.
I think the different thing would be to look at Tatum's stats against Milwaukee, the same team that Booker played, but you know.
Look, it wasn't my point wasn't meant to be like taken like super like not seriously, but like I just wanted to throw that out there just for a little bit of fun. Like I was just kind of joking around, but it has a little bit of merit to it. That's all I wanted to say.
So
I
to switch gears here, I do have a question for you guys because I feel like, we've talked about the players who have disappointed in this series, whether it's been Jordan Poole, whether it's been Klay Thompson, Draymond, Tatum, other guys on the Celtics who are, hot and cold. And I just think like I've really enjoyed watching this series. I think either team could win and it's very back and forth and could go either way. But it was just interesting in this discussion how we were like, these guys haven't shown up. So I'm curious, like, why do we think it's such a good series if guys aren't playing as well as they can be? Is it because other guys are stepping up? Is it because it's competitive, it's back and forth, the coaching? Like, I'm just curious what we think that is.
The latter two, I think competitiveness and coaching. Like, I think the coaches on both sides have been really good. And the adjustments have been really good for the most part. Right, like you can say anything you want. How Kerr's been, I think Kerr's been better than Udoka, but like they've both been really good, and then they've just been really competitive. Even in like games that were decided by double digits, even blowouts, like it's still fun to watch. To me because like you can finally watch certain players just like play well. You know what I mean? Like Poole struggled in the series, but the Warriors won by a ton because he went off in that game. Right? I think it was game 2. Right? Like even when that happens, it's still fun to watch. Yeah, but it's just very back and forth. Like I think you said it last night, Jack. It's like this is just. Jack said it was better than the Phoenix-Milwaukee series, I said because of the back and forth. Like
I said that beginning of the fourth quarter when it was back and forth, the crowd was into it. You could just see the intensity on every single play from every single player on the floor. Like Tatum diving for that ball, guys are flying all over the place.
Yeah.
And I just thought watching those like 5 or 6 minutes of basketball, I had never seen more intense basketball. And to go back to the Phoenix Suns quickly with this point, like,
yeah,
I think the biggest reason we struggled in this year's postseason, not even just in the Dallas series as a whole, was because we were getting out-toughed and out-muscled and out-hustled by teams. And I think, if we had played the way that we had this postseason in a game like that, we would have been run out of the gym. I just think now, granted, it's the NBA Finals. Will you play tougher than you did in the first and second round of the playoffs? Probably. But from what I saw, like this just emphasized the fact that we were not good enough to get there for me because of those 5 or 6 minutes of basketball. I don't think we would have been able to hold up.
I'll chime in real quick. I think the NBA Finals kind of exposed some things to us that might be masked by the regular season and earlier rounds of the playoffs. And I think it masks who the truly great players are in the NBA. And I think we're seeing that, right? Like you're in the NBA Finals, 2 terrific coaches. they're going to nitpick and they're going to be able to, with film, find ways to try and slow you down, take you off your spots, disrupt your rhythm, and, find the best matchup to slow you down. And I'm talking about the star players of guys like Tatum, Brown, Curry, and I guess I'll throw in Clay. So for me, what this shows is who's truly great enough to overcome all of that, to overcome all the attention, all of the film, all of the intensity. And that's Steph Curry. And everyone else has a ceiling right now that's not even close to Steph Curry. Steph Curry is showing that he is an all-time great NBA player, and he's one of the top players in the NBA today. And I think the rest of the guys like Tatum and Jaylen Brown, to a little bit of a lesser extent, and Klay Thompson are getting a little bit exposed. And the world is kind of seeing what these guys are right now. And I'm not saying that can't change. I'm not saying Tatum can't become a top 5 NBA player, but he's not. He's not. He might not even be a top 10 NBA player right now. Klay Thompson, he's obviously not in his prime anymore. He's overcome a couple of injuries. He is a limited basketball player right now. For me, this just the NBA Finals just brings out who's the best and who, is good, but is not the best. And for me, Steph Curry is just the best. And that's simple as of right now. So.
Yeah. Look, I haven't agreed with Trevor on a lot, but Trevor's right. Steph Curry's the best player in the series. He's the best player. Maybe of these playoffs, really. And he's going to win Finals MVP this year. He hasn't won it yet. He's going to win it this year, I think. I just think the Warriors are going to win the series, so I think he's going to win Finals MVP. Is it possible for a player to win Finals MVP if they lose the series? I don't think it. No. Theoretically it is, but they're not
happened.
They're not
in theory,
it should have been LeBron that one year
in 2018. In 2015, you think?
2015, 100%.
Okay.
Well, in 2015, LeBron led both teams, every player in points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, every major stat. LeBron led every
series. We lost in 6 when Kyrie got hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I didn't even remember that. But yeah. And then, because Iguodala won it. Yeah, they won't. If they didn't give it to LeBron and gave it to Iguodala, you're right. Then they're not going to give it to the losing team. I was going to say, is there any chance Curry could get it if Boston wins? There's not really. But anyway, yeah. No, Trevor's right. He's been the best player in the series, and that's what the finals does. It brings out who the best is. I'm telling you, the final 6 minutes of every game in the finals here, you see who the winners are. Right. And it's easy to say that. But I said that last night, and then Curry made shots and the 2 stars on Boston didn't. And it's just man, you see who the best is. And it was, in that case, it was Steph Curry.
We saw it with Devin Booker last year.
Get out of here. Look, unfortunately, the Milwaukee Bucks just made too many winning plays down the stretch in that series, but we're not going to delve back into that.
We'll dive into another Suns controversy.
Which is
another Suns topic.
Yes, sir. Which is actually talking about a controversial center, really. And this is very up for debate here, what to do with Deandre Ayton. And look, I say it's up for debate for the last year. Ever since the Suns lost in the NBA Finals last year to Milwaukee, I said to Trevor, what did I say, Trevor? I said Deandre Ayton should not get a max extension. He's not worth the max. And you should not give him a max extension. The Suns didn't give it to him last offseason. He got disgruntled, right? He clearly is a little annoyed. Plays this year. I don't see any improvement in his game. Kind of disappears in some games in the playoffs. Look, Jack's seen more of Ayton than I have, but
improved.
I didn't see him much in the playoffs. I didn't see max player impact. I don't know if you disagree with me, but I didn't see max player impact in the playoffs.
I saw it at times.
Before I give my opinion on what they should do and who they should try to get for him, I want to hear from you guys because you're the Suns fans. Eden, what do you think? Eden, I'm gonna start with you. What do you think?
Eden's price tag is a little higher than mine.
Eden thinks Trevor. Eden thinks that you guys can get 4 first-rounders and Kevin Durant for Deandre Ayton. So go ahead.
I would probably accept that trade. Yes.
Anyway, Jack, go ahead. What do you think you should do? Should you sign him to a max? Is there any chance he stays? Let me ask you that.
Yes, I think he does stay. I am on the train right now that he stays.
Wow.
And I think here's what's going to happen. First of all, if you look at his numbers from every single year, he has improved. From his rookie year to now, whether that's, his points per game has gone up. The biggest thing is his shooting percentage. Not that it's gone up a ton, but last year he averaged 17 a game on 63% shooting from the field. So he's extremely efficient. He can guard a bunch of different positions. You can leave him out there on an island with a guard and, they'll get some, but he'll do his job and slow him down. And It's different when Luka Doncic is out there, but he's capable of guarding, the smalls, and we saw that in the Clippers series last year, that they didn't have to take him off the floor versus a Gobert. But I think, the kid, he's still young. He's 23 years old. He's improved the first 4 years in the NBA, and he fits the time trajectory right now with Devin Booker and pairing those two together for a long time. So I'll say this. I think he's going to stay.
Wow. Even with the reports on, frustration with the coach.
Because we will not be able to turn him into someone like a Kevin Durant this offseason. And that is
Ryan's losing his mind.
Kevin Durant.
I'm serious. Here, I'm gonna throw out two different trade scenarios. The first of which is Kevin Durant, which we throw in another piece, we throw in a pick or two. We could, if Kevin Durant wants to leave because Kyrie leaves, we could turn Ayton into Kevin Durant potentially. Those are the only types of trades that I see us moving DeAndre Ayton. On the flip side, there's another trade offer where you could get Miles Turner, Chris Duarte for DeAndre Ayton, bring those guys back in. That is not enough talent for James Jones to pull the trigger on dumping DeAndre Ayton for guys who may fit our system a little bit better. I think if you're going to move Ayton, you're going to get prime value for him. You're going to get cream of the crop players, those top 10 players in the NBA who want to be in Phoenix and play with Devin Booker. That's the only reason. That's the only way I see DeAndre Ayton not being a Phoenix Sun next offseason.
Look, Ryan, I know you're.
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Ryan's chomping at the bit here.
Yeah.
And look, Jack, I hope you're right, my friend. I hope we flip DeAndre Ayton for Kevin Durant because I just don't believe it. Here's my concerns with DeAndre Ayton suiting up for the Suns next year. And there's two things. One, I don't doubt his talent and his potential and his overall skill as a basketball player. He is a max player in terms of skill, offensive ability, defensive ability, potential, all that. He might be a super max in terms of that. My issue with Ayton, and it's always been this, and I've said it for 5 years now, the guy just doesn't have that max player killer instinct. He doesn't, for whatever reason, get himself going into another gear like the great players do. Like the guys like Devin Booker, Chris Paul, they have that next gear and they have that killer instinct and they have that will to win a game and change a game. Ayton for me is just a little passive, a little lackadaisical at times, and that bothers me a lot. And I can get over that. But my second point is, and I don't know if the Suns are going to, I don't know if this fits for the Suns, but I don't think you don't need a max center in today's NBA to win a championship. And that's evident by who are the 4 teams left in the conference finals this year. I mean, Bam Adebayo's pretty good, but the rest of the centers were Al Horford. I don't even know who the center is for Dallas. Dwight Powell? I don't know.
Dwight Powell. It's Dwight Powell. Yeah.
And Kevon Looney, right? Like those were the centers in the conference finals this year.
Yeah.
So for me, center is not a position you generally build around in today's NBA. We see that with Rudy Gobert, what that's turned into for the Utah Jazz. We're kind of seeing that with, Nikola Jokic, right? And I know his team hasn't been healthy, but
the only centers you build around are the guys with like really gifted passing abilities, right? Like,
exactly. We've seen with Joel Embiid, right? There's a ceiling for Philadelphia every time, and they've built around that center and Joel Embiid. I'm not saying those are perfect contrasts, but point being, you don't need a center to win in today's NBA. So this leads me to this, and this is my proposal for DeAndre Ayton. I would absolutely not let him walk. I would absolutely give him the max. I would absolutely give him the max if there was no other way to get him out of Phoenix, right? But my first option is trying to trade him. My first option is trying to trade him for a scorer, trying to trade him for a high-level caliber player. I'm not expecting to flip him and some picks for Kevin Durant. I don't think that's what's the word?
Realistic.
Realistic is a good word there. I don't think that's realistic. Look, I held up the Kevin Durant at the beginning of the podcast. I would love to see that as a Suns fan. And I do think there's like a teeny tiny bit chance that happens. His comments about Devin Booker, his comments about Monty Williams, that just leads me to believe he likes those guys. But that has nothing to do with him coming to the Suns, realistically. So for me, I would flip DeAndre Ayton for a Miles Turner and Chris Duarte. I would flip DeAndre Ayton for a Miles Bridges and PJ Washington. I would flip DeAndre Ayton for maybe players with less of a ceiling, but are more reliable. Maybe you get a draft pick out of it. Maybe you get another score out of it. So I would consider flipping Ayton for something less than a star if I got the right pieces. I think Miles Turner and another score would be a very good addition to the Phoenix Suns.
We feel like OJ Anunoby or something, from Toronto.
I don't know if I'd flip him for that, just OG Anunoby.
Can I go ahead? Can I say something?
I need a lot for Ayton, but I would be willing to get rid of him for something less than a Kevin Durant.
Here's the issue that lies with this whole discussion. The Suns, you can't just be like, yeah, we're just gonna trade him for this. Like, the issue is he's a restricted free agent. Like, you don't have 100% of the leverage.
But we're gonna
right. So here's what happens.
You
might, but what if Robert Sarver is sitting in James Jones' ear going, look, like, I am not keeping DeAndre Ayton on a max contract. That's what he said last year. Who's to say he doesn't do that this year? Then what ends up happening, whoever gives him a max, here's what you have to do. You're not going to let him walk. Trevor, you gave a scenario where he walks and you get nothing. That will not happen with restricted free agents. You always get something.
That's what I said. I said that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I agree. It can't happen. You're going to get something. Now, it just matters on what you're going to get, right? So depending on who gives him what deal, you kind of have to get lucky with what team offers a deal that Ayton takes. Because if Ayton takes a deal from I don't know, Detroit, you're not going to get that much. You're going to get Sadiq Bey, maybe. Maybe.
I'd love Sadiq Bey.
That'd be great, but you're not. What I'm saying is you're not going to get it really depends on who offers him what type of deal, right? So if your owner's telling you you can't keep him on a max, you're gonna say okay, whoever gives him a max, we just have to make a deal with.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
So whether that's Indy, whether that's Charlotte, whether that's
100% not true.
No, I'm saying in this, I don't know why Sarver would change his mind on letting Ayton stay on a max when he didn't want it last year, right?
He's not the owner.
But there's not a lot of time. It's a month away. You know what I mean? So it's you're kind of, and you will get something, but you're just hoping that he fits with the team that has a player you want. And that's how it's going to go.
What's so frustrating?
You cannot choose the team he goes to, right? You can't say hey, we want Miles Turner.
100% can. That is the point of restricted free agency.
Wait, what? No.
We could say we're not trading you there. We're going to match you, and you're stuck in Phoenix.
But what I'm saying is you don't have leverage if Sarver says we refuse to match the max. So if he gets offered the max from Portland, you have to deal with Portland. You have to.
Dame Lillard.
That's I guess that's a good point. If you're looking at it as Sarver specifically, who in the past with guys like Joe Johnson, who said he didn't want to be there, what did he do? He signed and traded.
Right.
But I think hopefully Sarver has learned from that. I feel if we get another year or two with Joe Johnson with that nucleus, do we win a championship? Who knows? But
it's a risky game.
I think we have a better chance.
It's a risky game to play because if you end up he calls your bluff.
What's he gonna do? He's gonna sit out like Ben Simmons and not.
No, what if he ends up going back on the max? I think that's a big mistake that your front office doesn't want to do. I think it's clear they don't want to. I don't think they want to do it. Nothing I've seen from the Suns, from the coaches, from the front office has led me to believe that they want to max him.
That's a good point.
I don't think they do, and I think that's another added point of restricted free agency is the Phoenix Suns don't have to give him that offer. They will have to give it to him if another.
But that's what Ayton wants.
But
Ayton's so demanded.
Right.
Someone's going to give it. It's so then you're in a rock between rock and a hard place because it's if you max him, you're not doing what you want. But if you don't max him, you're just forced to take whatever
here's
the
what
other
I think
team
the Suns should do.
And here's why I'm going back to that star trade point. We're not going to dump him off for role players.
You might have to, is what I'm saying.
Why would we have to? We'll sign him, and then the next time another star wants out, then we'll leverage him later on. It's not.
I just don't think you'll sign.
Be this offseason type of thing.
I guess I think
sign him in 2 years from now. Another star wants out, and then we flip it.
I guess I just think that you have less. I think you have less leverage than I think you think. I think we're disagreeing on where the power lies here, is what I'm saying. I just don't think the Suns have much to stand on. Right? It's restricted free agency. you can hope
Well,
that the right
from
team
your
gives
point
an
of view-
offer.
What is there no power with there though? Like,
So
It's because
Ayton
Ryan
could
Ryan
want to go
wanted
somewhere else
Trevor,
and be forced to
Trevor,
come
go
back.
ahead. Trevor, explain it. Go ahead.
From Ryan's point of view, Ryan's thinking just dump Ayton for anything at this point because I don't want Ayton here anymore. That's what Ryan's trying to say.
Well, I'm saying because
So
the
that's
Suns
why-
don't want to max him, like
I
any
don't think
team
that doesn't mean they
any
don't want
team
him.
that offers the max, the Suns will then have to match if they want to keep him. They don't
Right.
want, in my head, they don't want to match the max, so then
But
they're
the
forced
leverage is
to give him to this team. Does
the
that make
leverage
sense?
is you can always keep him if you want to keep him. And
Yes,
I think
yes.
the issue is, do we want to keep him for that price tag?
Sure.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm
leverage,
That's
saying.
what it comes
is
down
you
to.
have the leverage.
It's not. This is what I'm saying is the leverage wise, the Phoenix Suns get to choose what they want to do. They can either re-sign him, they can match what another team has done, or they can trade him. And they have complete control over what happens based on if they sign him,
Yes.
if they have the option to match someone else's signing of him, or they can then go for a trade and get value back for him. What I'm saying is, I don't think Miles Turner and Duarte, two role players, is going to be enough.
I think that's a
Coach
lot.
Deandre
actually.
Ayton from the Suns.
And all
I
I'm
don't think
saying
it's enough.
is, to me, in restricted free agency, and again, I might be wrong about this, but in my head, from what I've seen, I don't think the Suns want to max him. So if Indiana offers the max, Ayton accepts, you have the chance to match.
Right.
In my head, the Suns don't want to match, so they won't match. So they'll be
Okay.
forced to deal with Indiana, in which case I'd be perfectly happy with getting a guy like Miles Turner. I think that's
So-
fantastic. Like, talking about Miles Turner as a player, great
And
defender.
you sign
He
someone
can
in
hit
free agency for a lower price.
Exactly.
Here's what I'll say.
Yes.
I think I agree with your point on the price tag. They don't want to give him the max.
Yeah.
They will give him whatever they have to give him. And we've seen this in the past with guys like Eric Bledsoe. We will publicly state whatever you sign him to, not the same caliber player, but whatever you sign
Yeah,
him to,
sure.
we will match. So what do teams do? They don't go after him, assuming the Suns will
But
just
I haven't
match
heard
him.
the
that.
Suns need to do.
I haven't
And
heard that with
then-
Ayton, though.
And then Bledsoe gets a lesser contract because of it. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying that is an option. Phoenix can say, whatever you give him, we will match. And then if a team gives it to him, they match, they can keep him. The point that I was going to bring up with what you just said, I agree with you money-wise. We don't want to pay him that much. But so if it gets to the point where we say, we don't want to pay him that much.
Right.
It's not that they're forced to trade with him. They can make the decision to trade with, Indiana if that's the case. They can really sit there and evaluate, these are the terms of the contract. Is it worth it to keep him or get someone else? Versus at this point, the contract could be anything. It could be less than the max. It could be the max. Like,
If it's less
so
than the
I
max,
think
all bets
at
are
that
off. I
point,
agree.
it gives the Suns a deadline and a price tag. And I think with those two things set firm, they can make the decision whether to keep him or to trade him. They're not forced to do one or the other. They have the leverage to still make that decision.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, if it's less than the max, all bets are off. I agree. I mean, anything could happen. But we'll see. I think someone's going to offer it to
If
him.
another
I
team
just
is
think
going to
someone's
poach him, it's going to have to be the max.
Yeah. Yes, I would probably agree with
He's
you.
going to
there.
get the max. There's
I
no
think
doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind somebody offers him a max, right? Someone is going to do that. And then it's like what Jack said, it's going to be up to the Suns to figure out how they want to play it from there.
Is it worth matching or trading for somebody? Yes.
I think
In which
they
case,
need
by
to
the way,
do
you go
that.
after a score, by the way. You get a score for your
Well,
Yeah. So is
obviously.
Miles Turner the score we're looking for?
No. What
No.
Ryan's
Duarte
saying
the
is,
score we're looking for?
no, what Ryan's saying is you bring in Miles Turner on a cheaper salary, and then you go out in free agency and find yourself another scorer. That's what Ryan's solution would be.
or you trade for like a
Right, but we're
Bogdanovich,
still already-
is perfect. From
Right. So
Atlanta?
it'd have to be through a trade because we are up towards the cap. So it wouldn't be through free agency.
Or you
Let's
pay
say
the
hypothetically,
max.
let's say Ayton leaves though. Let's say hypothetically, for some reason, you don't get a lot of salary back. For whatever reason, the guys you got just don't have a big salary. You're sitting there with decent, like more salary open, right? On the books. With Ayton off the books. I don't know how much he's making right now, but it's got to be something halfway decent because he was a number one overall pick. I don't know.
He's making
If
like
you sign him
12
to this
million a year.
contract, you have to match the contract. So it
Not
would
if
be-
they
you'd have to-
not
you'd
if they
to-
have cap space, but generally you're right. Yeah.
Right, but Phoenix would have to match him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Look, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a fun offseason. At the end of the day, personally, I think he's not going to play another game for Phoenix. Jack seems to think he will. And
I
Trevor,
didn't say whether I think if I had to lean, I think he's staying.
and
And I think Phoenix will choose to keep him when
okay.
they come to it,
And
because they want to
Trevor,
have a better option.
the final thing, do you think he stays or leaves? You think he leaves, correct?
I don't know.
You're not sure. Come on. Trevor, if you had to put money down right now, give me. Ready? Come on. 3, 2, 1. Where does he go? Say or go.
I think he stays,
Okay. There
but
you
I
go.
don't necessarily want him to stay.
Okay.
I
Okay.
have one more thing to bring up. You have 2 years of Chris Paul left. Do you think the Suns are more likely to win a championship with DeAndre Ayton, Booker, and Paul, or Paul, Booker, Miles Turner, Chris Duarte?
Depends how good Duarte is, really. But like it could be the latter. It could be Turner and Duarte. Turner to me is cheaper and in a way better than Ayton.
Well, he does certain things
Because of
better
his
than
value.
Yeah. And I think he's a very good interior defender as well. Like the defensive drop, like there's slightly
So
different types
that's
of
what
defenders.
Rudy Gobert has been, though. Like, I think a big part of Ayton is being able to guard those guards, and I don't know if Turner can really do that.
But like I think Turner's more versatile on the offensive end. So I think it's a trade-off.
barely, but a little bit.
Yeah, I mean he hits threes pretty consistently. He's like a 35% three-point shooter. If I had to
Ayton
say.
can shoot from anywhere inside the 3-point arc. That's the tricky thing there.
Yes,
One thing
you're
I'm
right.
going to say, one thing I was going to say is, and you guys kind of talked about it, you glanced over it. The Suns need to play a PR game. I think we need to start putting out and leaking things that we want to keep DeAndre Ayton, and we need to try and find a way to manipulate through PR, through media, to like up his trade value. I think we need to. I think the silence.
He's not doing it right now. Yeah.
I think the silence tells everybody that we don't want him, and I think we need to put out like a leak or some BS and play a little PR game and talk about how we're going to try and keep DeAndre Ayton. We want to keep DeAndre Ayton. The relationship is good between ownership, Monty, and DeAndre Ayton. And I think the trade value will go up. I just think the fact if you make someone more scarce or make a resource more scarce in a negotiation, then the other side is more likely to pay more for it. So right now, I think the silence is hurting the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, the offseason hasn't even started yet, so a lot can happen. But I think some PR, playing a little media game, trying to make DeAndre Ayton seem a little bit more scarce, as a resource to sign, I think helps you, up his trade value, or if you really want to keep him, just keep him. But I think if you're playing the trade game, you need to put out leaks about how you want to keep him and whatnot.
I agree 100%. And can we actually I know we're gonna have a different topic or two at the end of here, but I kind of wanted to turn this in like a tiny bit of a different direction because I read about something that I was kind of interested in, and this is off of the Ayton thing. How opposed would you be to like Ayton's not the guy that you have to move. It's Chris Paul. I read something. It's like Chris Paul has taught the young guys how to win. Chris Paul's taught them everything he knows. This team has built a culture with Monty, with all the players there. It's time to move on from Chris Paul and let the young guys win themselves. Keep Ayton. You retool. You get another guy, obviously, with Chris Paul's big salary leaving. How would you feel about that? Like Ayton's not the guy to leave. It's Chris Paul. He taught them everything he knows in terms of winning, experience, and they've been through a finals run. They've been to the playoffs multiple times now. They have a coach of the year coach. Like, how crazy would that be? Like, would that be something that you'd be okay with? Would that be something that you'd consider?
Here's what I have to say with that is you're not going to get a younger, more valuable piece for Chris Paul, in my opinion. Like you could grab draft picks.
Well, yeah, then you'd go out and sign someone. Yeah.
Right. But the only thing that I really see us flipping Chris Paul for, if we were to do that, would be a similar version of Chris Paul. I mean, the two options that I think of are Russell Westbrook and John Wall. And I don't think either of those guys makes us a better team than having Chris Paul on there, especially also to add to the point that James Jones has been a player in this league for a long time. And I feel like if you did that with Chris Paul, you're kind of just dumping him off for nothing. And I think that would kind of be seen as a disrespectful move. And I don't think, not that it would be, but I think that's how it'd be perceived. And I don't think that's in James Jones's MO. So I just don't see that.
Regardless of perception, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a business, and you care about Chris Paul's feelings, but not enough if you want to move him for the right price.
Sure.
I just don't think you're going to get the right price for him. I just think he's a little too old for a team to really trade the crown jewel for him, right? Like he's been great for the Suns. He obviously is a winner. He wins everywhere he goes. He makes every team he's on better. But I just think it's hard with that salary. And look, it's a salary that is declining over the years. So it's a front-loaded contract, right? I think he's getting 30 some odd million next year, and then he gets less the third year, and then after the third year is a team option, I believe, for the fourth year. Yeah, so it's not a bad contract. It's a lot of money this year. But I just think if we're trying to win a championship in the next 2 years, and that might be the window before we have to retool a little bit, I think you just keep Chris Paul because he does so many things. And I get he's taught everything he knows, but he's still an unbelievable player when he's healthy, right? And I know he tends to, wear down a little bit as the playoffs come around. But we saw this guy can dominate a game even at his age. And we saw it in the playoffs against the Pelicans multiple times. We saw this guy take over games in the fourth quarter. And I think for us, trying to make a title run right now, I think that is a necessary piece to keep if we're trying to win a championship.
The last thing I want to –
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The last thing I was going to say is what team would trade for him? Like, you got to think it's
the Lakers.
It's a team that's this close.
Yeah, the Lakers, by the way.
A team that believes they're this close and they think if they flip one guy for Chris Paul, the winning will improve, that they'll win it.
I don't know if it matters, Jack.
Outside of the Lakers, which that's not even realistic anyways, I don't see it happening.
Look where he was traded in, like, earlier, though. He went to the Thunder. Like, right? Like, I don't know if it necessarily matters where he – like, do you know what I mean? Like,
right,
I feel
but what I'm saying is, like, it wasn't he got traded to the Thunder. It was Russell Westbrook got traded to Houston because Houston believed Russell Westbrook was that missing piece to get them over the top. So now you're going to be in that situation with Chris Paul, and I just don't think they're really any teams out there, even the Lakers, that believe
maybe
Chris Paul
Dame Lillard.
It's entirely
I
fair.
would flip him for Dame Lillard if that was possible.
Like, look, seriously, like I've seen reports, by the way, that like, and I was looking through this while you guys were talking, like a lot of teams have expressed interest in Ayton, like, by the way, and like Damian Lillard, there was a report that Damian Lillard wants to play with Ayton and he'd be happy to play with him. So like
in Phoenix, I love it. I love it, Dame.
But like the Trailblazers are a team that he's been linked to. The Mavericks, the Hawks, the Spurs, a lot of teams he's been linked to, and it's just really interesting.
That's why
even the Pistons, like these teams have all been linked to him. Like it's just
why, as I said, that's why you need to start playing the PR game. You need to start putting out reports to up his value, because right now teams think he's very poachable with our silence. Now, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm sure James Jones is talking to league execs, GMs, whoever.
Sure.
But I would put out things publicly to up DeAndre Ayton's value by just saying we intend to keep him. The relationship's good.
The one concern, and it's interesting, Ayton made a comment that I saw. He said, "I can't pass myself the ball." He made a comment.
He's not wrong about that.
And he's not wrong about that. And I saw in the playoffs, in the last 5 games, right, in the Dallas series, Ayton averaged 38 touches a game. Comparison, Crowder got 50. And it's like, he's not wrong. Like, he didn't get a lot of touches. So, like, maybe Ayton doesn't want to, maybe Ayton just doesn't want to stay either. So it's a very interesting dynamic. Yeah, it's a
mixture of both. One, I think Ayton needs to want the ball. And that's part of him being aggressive and him, doing his own thing to get the ball, right? Like, great players get the ball. Give me the ball and I'll go to work. Number 2, I agree. I do think we didn't, and I think that's a little bit on Monty, where you gotta, with a guy like Ayton, you gotta get him going early. And if I'm Chris Paul and I'm Monty Williams, I'm making it an emphasis to get DeAndre Ayton 4 or 5 touches early in the first 2 minutes of the game. Because if you get him going early, he can be really effective. And we saw that multiple times in the playoffs. We saw that in the Pelican series, where this guy can give you 25 and 15. He can give you 30 and 12. He can give you those Joel Embiid-like performances, but he's not Joel Embiid in terms of he can't get himself going like Joel Embiid can. And he's just not as like aggressive as Joel Embiid. But I think when you can get him going and you get him jump started, he can be that level of player.
You think? Yeah, I guess it's all about like the consistency for Ayton, right? Like getting him to consistently be that guy.
He has it mentally, because I think part of it's mental for me. I don't know. Because
I'm sure Monty sees it too, right? Because right? I mean, wasn't like there was a whole like, will he go back into the game in Game 7, right? Like there was a whole like weird situation there.
That was just frustration.
I know. But like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like right, like I'm sure that I'm sure that adds to it in a way, and it'll be interesting, right? Because can he be consistent enough, and also like the assertiveness is a big thing, right?
That's always been the issue.
Because like you see all these big men, like Kevon Looney, like these guys, even like Kevon Looney goes out there and gets like, he's physical for rebounds, right? he's getting in there like he's the only guy in there versus like 2 or 3 guys on Boston sometimes. And also they dunk the ball. Like I feel like Ayton doesn't dunk the ball enough. And I know you said that before, but like I think you're right about that.
DeAndre Ayton has, in terms of just a skilled NBA big man, he is a top 3 center in this league. In terms of raw skill, ability, defense, offense. I mean, I only see Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid as better. When DeAndre Ayton is at his best, I only see Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid as better centers in this league than DeAndre Ayton. But the issue is DeAndre Ayton is just not always at his best consistently enough. And that's just something that's hard for me to get over. But it's also hard for me to let go because I feel like you can try and get him there. Jack, I don't know how you feel, but
I agree. And I think, if he comes back, the option for the Suns, it's not an option at this point. He has to be the second option. And like, he's got to be that guy who takes on more of a scoring load. I was just comparing his stats to Miles Turner's, just looking at him. And they're like, could you do the same thing? I bet if Turner gets the touches Ayton does, like it's pretty decent there. But Miles Turner, 13-7 on 51% shooting this year in the same minutes where Ayton was, 17, 10, and 63% shooting. And here's what I'll say is if DeAndre Ayton goes, we will not realize how much we miss him until he's gone. And I think
that's fair. I could see that happening. I could see that happening.
He's the scapegoat. He's the guy that everyone, when you have to blame because he has all these high expectations. Number 1 pick, Luka Doncic in the same draft doesn't help him. So people think that he's underperformed, but in reality, he's improved every year. And what he gives this team from an efficiency standpoint and what he's 100%. Able to do, and that he has more in the tank. So like from that sense, it's his 4th year in the league.
23.
Look at what Giannis was doing. He really didn't get going, I don't think, until his second contract. So, I mean, not that he's Giannis, but he's 23. He has room to grow, and he's shown improvement over 4 years. I think you have to write it out. You can't dump him for a Miles Turner who's been in the league for 7 years, and he's going to be a 13-7 guy. You need more of a force on this team.
I dump him for Miles Turner and Tyrese Halliburton. I'd do that.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's not
gonna happen.
I know.
Maybe Buddy Hield, like maybe. But not Halliburton.
The more
I think you're giving up too much potential value there.
The more
and it
I
doesn't
hear
make
Jack
you better
about
these
this,
2 years.
The more I hear you say this, Jack, the more I'm thinking maybe we should just keep DeAndre Ayton and retool a little bit and just bring in a couple new, role player pieces. Because I get we lost in the second round of the playoffs, but how far away were we really from a championship? I think we should have beaten Dallas if we played up to our potential. And Golden State would have been a tough series, but I think we would have matched up well with Golden State. So it's fair to say that you bring back this team, we're right back in this, we're right back in the second round, conference finals of the playoffs next year. So it's hard. That's why I'm so back and forth on what we do with Ayton. I can't. It seems like you two are like on either sides of it, and I'm like right in the middle. And I don't know where I want to go.
That's fair.
Now give me Kevin Durant, and I'll dump DeAndre Ayton. I'll pack his bags for him.
I'll dump
buy his
DeAndre Ayton for Kevin Durant.
I will drive him to the airport if we get Kevin Durant.
We'll have a parade as Kevin Durant leaves the airport, Jeffrey.
Good Lord.
Yeah, kind of like when we won the Western Conference Finals and there was just fans lined up everywhere. But fellas, doesn't he just look so good in that jersey?
Those jerseys, honestly, those jerseys are just.
There we go.
Oh my Lord.
Ryan, what do you think? Look good?
Honestly, I'd just be sad. If I'm going to be honest,
I would run to the team store and buy a Kevin Durant Valley jersey in a second.
I would too.
The snake strikes again, ladies and gentlemen. The snake strikes again. He slithers back into a championship team just like that, huh? Look at this guy. Oh, that would annoy me. But look, right. we'll see what happens with Ayton. It's going to be interesting. I think he's not. I don't think he's playing again for the Suns. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Suns will regret it. We'll see what they do. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Definitely more interesting than last offseason, right? I think there's going to be more movement for the Suns here this upcoming July. But yeah, we'll find out in about 3 or 4 weeks from now. I think about a month from now. We'll see what happens there. And yeah, I don't have anything else. I don't know if you, Trevor. I know you just shouted out Kevin Durant. What do you have? Something else you want to say? Who else you want to shout out? Arizona,
I think
U
we're very
of A women's
prepared.
softball lost, so you can't shout them out again.
I know. It was a good run for U of A women's softball.
Hey, shout out to Charles Schwartzel. You know, he won the first Live Golf Tour event. He won almost $5 million, biggest prize pool in golf history. So, you know, cool for him.
Live Golf Tour. If you guys are looking for a couple of guys who can't break 75, we're here.
We'll talk about that a little bit next week. I know it's a controversial tour to a degree, and definitely an interesting, different approach. So, we'll talk about that a little bit. See, kind of what the deal is with that tour, and
I actually do have a couple.
If the PGA should be worried, yeah, go ahead. What?
One, shout out Kyler Murray. He's looking big, really big. And I want to give a couple shout outs to Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp, who are now the highest paid non-quarterback players, I believe, in the NFL. Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald just signed massive extensions.
Yeah.
They're division foes, but they're easy guys to root for, in my opinion. I think they're both excellent, just professional athletes, great models for the NFL. So shout out to them for getting the bag. Shout out to Kyler Murray. He's looking big. And shout out to that explosive Cardinals offense we're going to be seeing when DeAndre Hopkins comes back next year. But we'll save that for another.
Yeah, after a 6-game suspension.
It's all right. He'll be fresh. He'll be fresher in November and December, baby.
It probably we'll see what happens there. I just hope the guy doesn't get suspended the whole year. But we'll see.
You mean like Deshaun Watson, right? I totally agree with you.
I hope he does. We'll see what happens. Look,
let him 16 games.
Hey, we all know the Cleveland Browns are better than the Cardinals by a lot when Deshaun Watson's behind under center there. It's not even a question. Look, you can't debate. Look, maybe we save this debate for another day. But Watson on the Browns makes us better than the. Look, we're a legit Super Bowl contender with Watson in my eyes. But that's a story for another day. I'm not going to get into this now. Yeah,
I got one shout out. It's Salsa J Appreciation Day. Shout out my boy Jake Crowder.
Shout
out
a
little salsa Ryan. Come on, throw one out.
Oh my Lord, no. Hey, in good conscience, I cannot support anything Jay Crowder related.
Come on, Ryan, just one salsa.
No. That was one of the most. I don't even know how to describe it. Disappointed, shocked, sad moments of my NBA watching life. That was just, I sat there watching him dance in front of LeBron James, and he sprints to the locker room while I'm watching with these two.
That was honestly my favorite part, was when he just
that was the best part of the series.
Easily. Oh my Lord. That was the
beginning of the Suns villain arc, right? Like they were kind of like everyone's favorite. And then that Jay Crowder,
and then everyone realized they're actually villains.
That was the beginning of the Suns turning into like the villains of the NBA.
Yep.
And it all pinnacled to us getting blown out in Game 7.
You have a bunch of front-running, arrogant floppers on your team, and it's easy to hate on them. It's easy to hate on them. It's true. You got Salsa J. You got Chris Paul, the flopping master. You have Devin Booker, the guy who trash talks when he's up, and then gets shut up real quick when he loses the series. What do you call it? The Lucas special. Oh man, look, we got the last laugh from that. But yeah, it's easy for you guys to be the villains. It's true. The Suns are the villains. And hey, I'm glad you guys embraced the last
laugh. He got swept in the next round.
I'm glad you guys embraced the role, Trevor. I'm glad you guys. It's honestly, it's better. It's good for your team to embrace the villain role. But look, that's all I have. That's all. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, but I guess we can end on the Jay Crowder Appreciation Day. Good Lord. Yeah, we're gonna end this podcast here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry about this, but yeah, look, we'll be back next week, talk more about the NBA Finals. Trevor, are the finals gonna be done a week from today or around a week from today? Do you know?
Next Sunday is Game 7.
Next Sunday. All right, so we'll be back talking maybe either right before or right after a Game 7. We'll see what happens there. More off-season NBA talk about the Live Golf Tour a little bit, then
and the NBA draft.
NBA draft's right around the corner. Wow. My time of the year, baby. Cleveland Cavaliers back at it again.
Time to finally start talking about the Cavs again. I love it.
Hey, I've missed them, dude. Hey, DG, he's kind of an animal. I forgot he was an all-star. We had 2 all-stars. We're so good. Anyway, we'll be back next week with another podcast. And yeah, hope everyone enjoyed. We'll see you there.
Celtics in 7.